In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
How can you eat keto if you are a vegetarian or vegan? While eating meat and other nutrient-dense animal-based foods certainly makes it easier to consume a low-carb, moderate-protein, high-fat ketogenic diet, it's certainly possible to experience the full benefits of nutritional ketosis eating a mostly plant-based diet. Adding in eggs can supply an excellent source of complete proteins and healthy fats to go along with ample amounts of nutritious, non-starchy, and green leafy vegetables. Using plenty of fats such as coconut oil, olive oil, avocado oil, macadamia nut oil, as well as macadamia nuts, almonds, and walnuts will be the lifeblood of your vegetarian keto lifestyle. Just because you don't eat meat doesn't mean you can't be keto.
Simplified short-form keto videos found exclusively at ketowhiteboard.info. Watch it, share it, live it.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live, and we're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, and if you want to engage in the show, here's how you do it. You can engage live. If you first go to JimmyRants.com, you'll see the links at Instagram Live, which is where I am right here. I'm also going simulcast Facebook Live. And so we do this a couple of times a day, you guys. Usually talk about things within the realm of nutritional health, although sometimes we go off script on things like the one I did earlier today. So if you missed that one, go back and check it out. If you missed the live on Instagram, you can watch it on replay for 24 hours. Here on Facebook, if you missed the live, you can also watch it on replay, but it doesn't disappear after 24 hours. Regardless, though, after 24 hours, if you missed any of the past episodes, hop on over to YouTube, type in the keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. I'm also at Living Low Carb Man, literally all over the interwebs. And so go check it out, you guys, on YouTube. But if you want to listen to it, because, you know, I know I'm handsome and all, but some people want to listen to podcasts. And so we do have a podcast for Jimmy Rants. It's on Apple Podcasts as well as Stitcher. So go check it out, guys. Definitely go leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you like the show. All of these links are at JimmyRants.com. Today's Jimmy Rants is all about the health markers that change when you change your diet. So most of us, when we were sugary, crappy garbage, junk food, fast food, all those food-like disease agents that I always talk about, when we were on that kind of a diet, did you care about your health markers at all? I'm going to go with a big hard no. I'm going to go that most people, before they started giving a crap about what they eat, probably had no idea what their triglycerides were. You probably had no idea what your insulin was. You probably didn't even care about what was going on with anything other than what your doctor told you if one number happened to be a little bit out of whack. And generally the number that doctor would look at is your LDL cholesterol and your total cholesterol. And here, take this statin drug. That was literally the only thing that I ever had a doctor kind of raise an eyebrow at, and otherwise I wouldn't even know what any of my health markers were. And so there's this notion that when you make a change in your diet from kind of the crap diet, crappy garbage as I like to describe it, that you're going to see changes in your health. And there is this debate out there that's still raging strong, and I've documented quite a bit of the various ways they're trying to make the whole world vegan, vegetarian, plant-based right now. But there's this notion out there that to eat a vegan diet is the ideal way to get your health markers in order, and all other ways of eating are going to destroy your health. If you talk to a vegan, they'll tell you meat is the grand enemy in all of your health. If you talk to a keto dieter, a low carber, a paleo person, they probably will tell you refined sugars and refined grains primarily are destroying your health. And so health can be measured in a lot of ways. And when I saw this next headline that we're going to talk about here today, it just about made me barf in a little bit in my mouth. Vegans have a healthier biomarker profile. Did you guys know that? Vegans have a healthier biomarker profile? That's what they're claiming. And so what I want to ask here today, what I want to talk about here today is, does eating vegan give you better health markers than low-carb keto? Now, if you talk to my Keto Talk co-host, Dr. Will Cole, who is the author of a book called Ketotarian, where he took the best principles of a plant-based style diet and the best principles of a ketogenic diet, and he meshed them together into a book he calls Ketotarian. And what Ketotarian is it's, yes, plant-based, but it includes eggs, it includes fish, and it's got the right ratios, macronutrient ratios, in order for you to be in ketosis and get all the benefits, okay? But according to this headline that we're about to read, this is for real, you guys. They are claiming that if you eat a vegan diet, you have a healthier biomarker profile. All right, so let's see what that means. Let me read the story. Over recent years, vegetarianism and veganism has experienced a boost in popularity. No, it hadn't. Keto is the #1 by a mile diet in the world. Keto is. What are they talking about? A, quote, boost in popularity. You'll see little ebbs and flow in the popularity of vegetarian veganism, but I would not call it a boost in popularity. If anything, it's about 3 to 5% of the population is actually on a vegetarian or vegan diet, which means 95 to 97% of the population is still eating animal-based foods. It's kind of preposterous they would call that. Experience a boost in popularity. But I digress. Let me get back on plan. Although people might switch over to eating plant-based for a range of reasons, many choose this path for its health benefits. What's really interesting to me is the health benefits. They never talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it here on Jimmy Rants. The reason people start to feel better when they go on a plant-based diet of some sort, vegetarian, vegan, whatever. The reason people feel better right away is they're off of the crap. Have you ever stopped and thought about that before? That when people switch over to eating a mostly plant-based diet, the reason they feel better is they've embraced real whole foods. It has nothing to do with getting rid of the meat in their diet. It has to do with getting rid of the bun that they got at McDonald's. It has to do with getting rid of the taco shell from Taco Bell. It has to do with getting rid of the crap that was in their diet. That's why they start to feel better right away when they go on a vegan diet. It has very little to do with the meatlessness of it all. But the problem is when someone does that and they start feeling better, oh my gosh, look at this vegan diet. It's the best thing in the world. Everybody should be doing it. And that's why they get some temporary health benefits. But before long, some of the ugliness that is being a plant-based eater start to rear its ugly head, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. If you're just joining us, we're asking the question because there is this claim in this study we're about to read. Vegans have a healthier biomarker profile. And so my question is, does eating vegan give you better health markers than, say, a low-carb, a ketogenic diet, a paleo diet, really anything that would be a reduced carb diet from crappy garbage? All right, so here we go. For instance, there is some evidence to suggest that a diet that includes fewer animal products reduces the risk of colorectal and prostate cancers. There is no randomized controlled clinical trial that shows that a ketogenic diet that includes red meat will lead to colorectal cancer or prostate cancer. It doesn't exist. what they're citing here, and of course they give a little hyperlink on it, what they're citing here is what's called epidemiological research. And you're going to hear me talk about this till I'm blue in the face. If you missed today's episode of the Livin' La Vida Low Carb Show, please go listen to Dr. Richard Feynman. I had him on for an interview. He's a longtime biochemistry professor who has done a lot of research himself. And he recently came out with a book, a second edition of a book that he wrote called Nutrition in Crisis. And we went all over this subject of good science, bad science, why certain studies aren't good, why certain other studies are good. And a lot of the studies that you see cited, including these two in this article about colorectal cancer and prostate cancer, they are just associations from data, not actually looking at patients. So let's be very careful about claims. The problem with that bad science, guys, is it ends up in articles like this, and then it's quoted as gospel truth. Oh my gosh, people say, oh my gosh, colorectal and prostate cancer, I don't want to get either one of those. Also, they continue, vegetarianism appears to reduce the risk of diabetes. The reason a vegetarian or vegan diet would reduce the risk of diabetes is because you're off the crap that's making diabetes worse. Refined carbohydrates, primarily sugars and grains. But you're not totally off the hook with a vegetarian or vegan diet because they're still carbs. And yes, they're healthy, natural carbs, but those will naturally raise your blood sugar and your insulin levels. They say it'll help control the condition for those who already have it. Not if you eat too many carbs, not if you don't eat enough fat, not if you don't get the adequate blood sugar control from the foods that you're eating on your keto or on your vegan diet. A ketogenic diet would control it quite well. So if you want to eat more of a vegetarian style diet, I would encourage you to do ketotarian, where it's the ketogenic profiles. If you're a type 2 diabetic, it's the ketogenic profiles, but through a plant-based prism with some eggs and some fish. That, I would think, would probably control diabetes. There is also evidence to suggest that adopting a vegetarian diet will boost weight loss. Well, guess what? Pretty much any diet can lead to weight loss. Any of them. Weight loss is not the point. In fact, I just had a Twitter comment just about a half an hour ago from a gentleman who said, you know, you have no business out there talking to people about diet because you can't control your weight. Therefore, weight loss is the goal. You need to be focusing in on yourself and not teaching other people because you're leading them astray, blah, 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 blah. To which I responded, well, my message is not about weight loss. My message is about getting healthy. And I said, do you think the people that listen to me on Jimmy Rants, for example, do you think they're all stupid? You guys aren't stupid. You listen because I provide quality information that then you can apply to your life. And I've even encouraged you many times on these shows, don't take what I say at face value. Go look it up. Go do your own research. And in that research, you can determine what's right and what's wrong about what I share. So if you're just joining us, we're asking this question, does eating vegan give you better health markers than low-carb keto? Because there is this claim in this new study that vegans have a healthier biomarker profile. And so let's get into this a little more. Scientists are steadily unpicking how plant-based diets improve health. It is clear there are many factors that are involved. One obvious place is that vegetarians and vegans do not eat red meat or processed meat. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I wouldn't go there first. And I just lost Facebook Live. Hang on a second. I lost Facebook Live. I want to bring them back. For some reason, I lost Facebook Live, so we're going to let those guys repopulate into here. Sorry about that, guys. Come on back in. Thanks for being here. So, as I was reading, I wouldn't go to red meat and processed meats first. I would think that the number one reason why vegetarians and vegans get better health markers has nothing at all to do with getting rid of meat. It has everything to do with getting rid of the processed carbohydrates. That's why they start to do better. That's why they start to feel better. The whole notion that it's red meat and processed meat, which they say here, both of which experts consider are increasing your risk of cancer. No, they do not. Red meat is not anything to do with cancer, you guys, unless you're sitting there char grilling it till it no longer moves anymore and you got this black soot all over your steak and you ate that every single meal. Okay, maybe you're getting some carcinogenic AGEs that are showing up on that meat and that could lead down the road to cancer. But this whole notion that red meat alone will increase your risk of cancer doesn't make sense. As well as choosing not to eat meat, people who follow a plant-based diet also consume more vegetables, fruits, and nuts. So there's nothing wrong inherently with consuming vegetables, fruits, and nuts. The only one in that category that I would have major concern with would be the fruit, because there's a lot of people who eat fruit and it's just full of sugar. And if they have insulin resistance, they have type 2 diabetes, they have anything that would be some kind of a metabolic derangement, then they're no bueno for you. Same with vegetables. If you have any vegetable or other plant-based food that would not be optimal for your body, remember we talk about bioindividuality here all the time on Jimmy Rants. If you're not getting benefit out of those foods that you're consuming, then why would you consume them? Well, they're plant-based, they're vegetables, they're fruits, they're nuts. Those are all obviously and axiomatically healthy. And I would say in the right circumstance, yes, but for some people, maybe metabolically, they don't handle those things as well as others. With this increase in plant matter comes a similar increase in nutrients, fiber, and other potentially beneficial compounds. Here's the dirty little secret that every time I hear one of these plant-based people talk about how nutrient dense and fibrous and other potential beneficial compounds, what about red meat? What about organ meat? Is there no benefit? Are there no healthy compounds in there? Is there nothing about these nutrients that are contained in red meat and animal-based foods, especially the offal? Is there nothing good about that? You never ever hear a vegan talk about the nutrient density that comes from eating cow liver, that comes from eating beef heart, that comes from eating the brain of an animal. All of these things are incredibly nutrient dense. And those are just three that off the top of my head I could think of that you could consume and get a loaded amount of nutrition from. But they want to brag about nutrients and other beneficial compounds only in the plant-based foods. I want you to go get a book. It's called Keto by my friends Craig Emmerich, and you guys know Maria Emmerich, the recipe maker of keto recipes. And they wrote a book called Keto. So go get that. It's on Amazon right now. And in there, they have a chart of the most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. And the top 20, is there kale in there? Nope. Are there blueberries in there? Nope. Is there quinoa or whole grains in there? Nope. You want to know what the top 20 are? The top 20, every single one of them is an animal-based food. The top 20 most nutrient-dense foods on the planet. All these so-called superfoods that they promote out there, from kale to blueberries to quinoa to chia seeds to all these things that are supposedly superfoods in your diet, none of them compare to beef, pork, lamb, the offal of all of those animals. It's pretty amazing. Vegetarians and vegans also typically have higher levels of compounds with anti-inflammatory and antioxidant activity, such as carotenoids and flavonoids in their bodies. So do people who eat all the parts of an animal. They do. Why do they not acknowledge that? Now, we know why. I'm speaking out loud for the people that might not be thinking about this, but we know why. They don't want you to know about the nutrient density of meat. According to the team behind the new study, which we're talking about here right now, all of these chemicals protect against cell damage and chronic diseases. So the protection against cell damage, they're talking about AGEs, advanced glycation end products. And they see that because people get AGEs from consuming proteins that have been damaged, that it must be the meat that's causing it. What they're not thinking about is maybe it's the way the meat's cooked. Maybe it's other factors involved. And yet they just want to point it at the meat. Also, vegetarians are likely to have higher levels of lignans and isoflavones in their blood. Experts believe that both of these can protect against cardiovascular disease and cancer. Well, they've shown no evidence that shows that there's any harm of consuming meat on all these diseases. Please show me the RCT, the randomized controlled trial. It does not exist. Recently, a group of researchers at Loma Linda University School of Public Health in California took a detailed look at the metabolic changes that a vegetarian diet can bring, and they published their findings in the Journal of Nutrition. The scientists wanted to understand whether dietary choices had a significant difference on the levels of disease-fighting markers in blood, urine, and fat tissue. So they recruited 840 participants from 5 different diet categories. They had vegans who had no animal products, lacto-ovo vegetarians who had eggs and dairy more than once a month but had no meat or fish, pesco vegetarians who included fish 1 or more times each month but all other meats were a no, semi-vegetarians who had meat more than once a month but less than once a week, and then non-vegetarians who eat meat at least once each week. I would have loved if they'd thrown a carnivore category in there. We eat meat at every meal. That would have been a great 6th category. So here's what they found in those 5 categories. They analyzed plasma, urine, fatty tissue from each of the participants. They tested for a range of markers, including carotenoids, isoflavonoids, saturated fat and unsaturated fat, and vitamins. As expected, why is it expected? Okay. As expected, the vegan group had the highest level of bioactive markers that prevent disease. The problem is they didn't list what they were. And nowhere in this article, you guys, do they mention what insulin was doing. Nowhere in this article did they mention what hsCRP and other inflammatory markers did. Nowhere in the article did they mention blood sugar as a marker. Nowhere in the article did they talk about triglycerides or advanced lipids like small dense LDL particles or anything that might give us a clue as to what they're talking about when it comes to these bioactive markers. What they did find, though, was the highest levels of carotenoids, isoflavones, enterolactones in the vegans, and then they were followed closely by the vegetarians. Well, all of those things are in high amounts in plants, so that's not a surprise. But again, does that really give them healthier biomarkers? To me, a biomarker is anything you can test in your blood and other parts of bodily fluids and tissue that could give you a clue as to what's going on inside their bodies. Vegans had the highest, this was a funny one. Vegans had the highest level of omega-3 fatty acids. Highest level of omega-3. They don't eat fish. That would help them in omega-3. Where are they getting omega-3 from? How, pray tell, do vegans have omega-3? Flaxseed, is that where they got it from? Chia seed, hemp oil. I'm trying to think of all the ways they could have gotten omega-3 fats into their body. And higher than people that would eat meat. There's a lot of omega-3 that would be in meat products. Why didn't they rank higher? Of course, remember, the people that they recruited, the non-vegetarians, ate meat at least once a week. That doesn't mean they were carnivore. It doesn't mean they were keto. It doesn't mean they were doing other activities that might have made them healthier. It just means they ate meat once a week. And the vegans also had the lowest level of fatty acids. Whoa. So they had the highest level of omega-3 fatty acids, but the lowest level of fatty acids overall. In other words, no saturated fat in their blood. I smell a rat. That doesn't make any sense at all. Man, I just lost Facebook Live again. There's something going on with Facebook right now. I'm going to bring them back up here. They explained that the results for semi-vegetarians look very similar to those of non-vegetarians. So they're saying don't go halfway on your vegetarianism. If you're going to go vegetarian, go all in vegetarian. That's what they're claiming here. All right, I'm trying to start the live again. So the results for semi-vegetarians looked very similar to those of non-vegetarian. Again, I would have loved if they would have had a category of, say, carnivore people, but they didn't. The study involved a large number of participants, which gives weight to the findings. It's worth noting that the scientists only took tissue samples once for each of the participants. In other words, they only tested one time. Why wouldn't they test like all throughout this study if they truly wanted to see changes that were happening? And of course, they didn't randomize them. They said, okay, how do you eat? And then that's the category that they fell in. They do not know how these biomarkers might fluctuate depending on all the non-diet factors. They list 2 of them. What about an individual's metabolic rate, which would stand to reason if they have insulin resistance or some kind of metabolic derangement that would preclude the numbers from being what they could be. And then they also said that they couldn't take into account the microbiome. Gut health is paramount. I would say they also missed the stress levels of the people that were eating these various diets. They didn't think about sleep. I just lost it again, so I don't know what's going on with Facebook. All right, sleep. So many factors, you guys, are going on. The findings, though, are good news for those who follow a plant-based diet. They're trying, aren't they, you guys? The study will be useful for researchers. Well, I hope researchers actually compare and contrast it a little more and dig a little deeper and try to control for these various variables, because to me, this is halfway science. This isn't really great science. Is it better than a mouse study? Obviously, but I'm not seeing that this is a huge take-home of overwhelming evidence why everybody should eat plant-based like they're concluding here. Currently, scientists are depending on participants to report their dietary intake using food diaries. That's not always reliable. As the study authors explain, under or over reporting is common, attributable to subjects' perceptions of social desirability, poor recall, questionnaire design, and other issues. And we've talked about that before. A lot of people do these food studies, these nutrition studies, and the researcher says, okay, how many eggs have you eaten in the last 3 years? Nobody knows that. You wouldn't do that unless you kept track of it in a journal. If researchers can develop a reliable way of assessing diet using biomarkers, it may help to validate findings and avoid some of the issues that can come from self-reporting. Understanding how nutrition affects health is a complex area of study. No two people eat the same diet. Hopefully, by understanding the biomarker profiles associated with different foods, it might be easier to pick our links between variations in levels as well as your increased risk of disease. So guys, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants, they're going to make the claim that eating vegan gives you better health markers than low-carb keto. And what I want to know is if they believe that, if they believe veganism is the be-all, end-all diet, why wouldn't they run insulin? Why wouldn't they run hsCRP? Why wouldn't they run blood sugar? Why wouldn't they run relevant markers of health? And for those of you that wonder what in the world are all the relevant markers of health that I should be running when I'm on a ketogenic diet, who wants to know that? Raise your hand. Do you want to know what those health markers are that you should be running when you eat keto? Do you want to know what those are? You want to know what the baseline testing that you should do is? Well, guess what? I got good news for you. On Keto Talk this week, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going over, me and my co-host, Dr. Will Cole, we're going over all the various biomarkers that are of greatest importance when you're a ketogenic dieter. And so you won't want to miss that. That's going to air tomorrow, so Thursday. And so go to ketotalk.com and you can hear that podcast. And we go over a whole bunch of them. Yes, Carol just listed 3 of the ones that we are going over. So definitely, if you want to know about health tests that you should run while you're on keto and really any nutritional modality, then listen to Keto Talk tomorrow. But I don't think vegans have the market cornered on having good biomarkers. I think most of us that eat keto, the reason we keep eating keto is we had type 2 diabetes and insulin off the charts and blood sugar off the charts, and all of those things come into line when you start eating a ketogenic diet. So you go low carb, moderate protein, high fat, real whole foods, and it gives you health. It does. And so many of us can attest to that. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. I hate that I lost Facebook Live, but they'll live. They can watch it on replay. Hashtag Keto Vegan, says Kuma Shake. What's up, Kuma Shake? I miss seeing you guys. Wow, confounded you because there's not hardly any comments. Ashton says you froze on Facebook. Yeah, I know. I don't know what happened to Facebook. It might be a Facebook issue. It might be an iPad issue. I'll check it out when I'm done. Colitis patients have to eat carefully fiber-rich foods because they can't eat it, says Dolly Mommy. Yeah, I would never eat vegan, says Elvira. Well, you know the ramifications of that. And I didn't even talk about, they talked about all the positive biomarkers that happen for a vegan, but there's a reason why half of the most popular YouTube vegans are starting to eat meat again. They're having major issues in their health. And we've talked about Ravana before, but she lost her period for 2 years, and she developed some autoimmune conditions, Hashimoto's, really bad things. Others start to have a severe, significant vitamin B12 deficiency because you can't get vitamin B12 from plants. You can primarily get that from animals. Same with complete proteins. You can't get all the amino acids that you need from just eating a vegan diet. And of course, they didn't mention anything about amino acid deficiency and vitamin B12 deficiency. That's just 2 examples of things. But there's so many micronutrients that they say, oh, just eat a plant-based diet and you get all this great micronutrition, robust. Not near to the level of an animal-based diet. They can keep trying to fool themselves into believing that, but the honest truth is you cannot get all that you need from only eating plants. Can you get all that you need from only eating animal-based foods? I don't know the answer to that, but you get a whole lot more of what you need when you eat nose to tail of a grass-fed animal. You get a whole lot more of what you need and a power-packed punch of nutrients when you eat animal foods. How low of LDL do they have? Yeah, yellow-eyed, I don't know. That's the thing. They didn't mention anything about lipids, anything about relevant blood sugar and insulin markers, nothing to that effect, not even inflammation markers. Val says a lot of people I know have problems with Facebook Live on Wednesdays. Oh, okay. I wonder, Val, if it's because everybody tries to do Facebook Lives on Wednesday. I don't know. But yeah, it kicked me out 3 times. So the 3rd time was the charm. I ended it. are you still doing the Keto Hacking MD podcast? Yes, MP Laughlin, it's on Fridays. So go listen. Yeah, we've been on every single Friday since the beginning of the year with brand new hacks. I talked about keto carnivore for the first few weeks. Then we went over into biohacking, doing meditation to control stress. We're about to wrap that up and to get into red light therapy. So yes, we're still doing that show for sure. Alberto said vegans use the standard lipid panel to justify everything. Yeah, they want to look at total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol, and the lower the better. Keto people want to look at triglycerides and HDL and the ratio between those, as well as small dense LDL particles on the NMR lipoprofile test. Hopped over here from Facebook. Well, Lou, I'm glad you made it over here. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened with Facebook. Ashton says, I was vegan, vegetarian, my health markers got worse. Yeah, and that's the thing too. If your health gets worse when you eat vegan or vegetarian, a lot of times people in that community will blame you. And they'll say there's something that you did that caused that, when that doesn't have to be necessarily true at all. So yeah, it's sad what's going on. And yet this notion, you ask people what's a healthy diet and they think a vegan diet is healthy, partly because of these kind of headlines and studies. They're also in a trap and a detox loop, says Alberto. Yeah. Carol says anyone going from the SAD diet will improve on a vegan diet, but after a while the health will start to deteriorate. And I'm sure you've seen that, Carol. Carol's a nutritional therapy practitioner, so she knows. With keto, my trigs went from 500 to 67, says Imperfectly Healthy. And that's a pretty typical thing. Congratulations, that's a huge drop, but pretty typical that your trigs will go below 100. But here's the thing. In this article, they didn't mention anything about triglycerides. And that is the key blood fat, you guys, that if you have higher levels of it, your risk of disease, your risk of inflammation goes up. But they don't want to talk about that. That's not a relevant biomarker. Nothing in that article that I read said anything about the biomarkers that I think are relevant. And again, if you want to hear all the relevant markers of your health and how you should be tracking your health when you're eating keto or anyway, go to ketotalk.com. And on Thursday, listen to our podcast. Dr. Will Cole and I spent a lot of time. I want to say it was about 75 minutes was the podcast length, going over thoroughly all these tests that you want to have run. And some of them are doozies, you guys. Some of them you'll know about, but others of them, they're genetic tests that you only have to run one time, but they tell you so much about why your body reacts in certain ways to certain foods. It's pretty amazing. So guys, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants, does eating vegan give you better health markers than low-carb keto? And despite what this new study is showing and saying, I don't think they really tracked the relevant health markers. Let's have apples to apples. Let's test triglycerides with all these diet modalities. Let's test hsCRP and other inflammatory markers with all these nutritional modalities. Let's test blood sugar and insulin and every marker, A1C. Let's test actual signs of disease. I think that would be really good as well. Kara says, in your opinion, why is a vegan diet being pushed so hard as of late? Kara, because veganism is becoming irrelevant. I think a lot of it has to do with all of these YouTube vegan stars that are basically starting to eat meat again because their health is in major decline. These guys are scrambling behind the scene, and they know that keto has gotten a lot of traction. So let's go ahead and push people to adopt an all plant-based diet. And then maybe they won't notice some of these people that have millions of subscribers on their YouTube channel. They won't notice that those people no longer eat vegan anymore. It's a real precarious situation for the vegan movement right now because all of their major stars are starting to eat meat again. And I think it's got the behind the scenes leaders bat crap crazy. The Eat Lancet study that came out earlier this year, that was supposed to be the grand poobah of making everybody eat vegan, it's kind of fallen flat on its face, and people really aren't paying attention to that. And I think they're paying more attention to, oh my God, look at what all of these vegan people are saying about their health. And some of these people have been vegan just as short as like a couple of years. I know the Ravana girl was 6 years, but she started having, she's been plant-based for 6 years, but she started having issues, what'd she say, about 2 or 3 years ago. So it was about 3 to 4 years in on her journey when she started losing her period, and she started having Hashimoto's and other symptoms in her health that the doctor told her, you need to eat eggs and fish as soon as possible if you want to get your health back in order. And when she did that, all of her health markers got right back in order again. And yet they want to tell us, eat vegan and you get optimal health markers better than any other way. And I'm saying, whoa, 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 maybe in the short term, but I don't know about you, but I want to eat long term to be healthy and to live longer, and all the reasons why you choose to eat a diet to be healthy, right? Lou Jean says, my doctor said today people who are on thyroid meds don't do well on keto diets. Well, Lou Jean, they need to talk to Christine. She is on thyroid meds for her Hashimoto's. She takes Armour Thyroid, and she does just fine. There's a lot of misinformation that's out there, and of course it's deep-seated within the medical industry to hate keto diets because of that keto being associated with ketoacidosis, which is a dangerous state. So doctors are kind of clueless when it comes to this. Obviously, we've talked about that before. Keto Mac, as such a clean burning fuel, ketones dramatically reduce free radical damage. So this large injection of antioxidants that vegans talk about really isn't relevant to keto carnivore. It's a good point. You're not having all of the free radical damage happen anymore. You don't need this huge amount of antioxidants. That's true. That's true. You're too logical though, Mac. You can't you can't argue with a vegan that way because their heads will explode. Alberto said vegans are dropping fast, and now they're using the more ethical vegan, animal life matters, not yours. Yeah. Look, if somebody wants to be a, quote, ethical vegan because they think harm is being done to animals, mad respect for having that belief. I think you're dead wrong, and I think you're going to harm your own self and the people that you influence with that nonsense as far as diet advice. But if you're doing it for the ethical reasons, yeah, I have respect for that, but I think you're short-sighted, and you're putting the life of those animals ahead of your own life, in my opinion. Can't change your doctor, change your doctor, says Lou. Oh, if you can't change your doctor's mind, then you need to change your doctor. You're right. And my doctor wouldn't run some relevant health markers for me, and I had to let him go last year. David said, I think people are repulsed by factory farming, so that drives them to not eat meat at all. And if an animal is raised in horrible conditions, intuitively, it begs the question, how healthy can the meat be? Well, that's why, David, we underscore so often that if you're going to eat meat, try to get the best quality that you can. Grass-fed, grass-finished, pastured, all of these terms are better options. And I think this is where we agree with a lot of those vegans who abhor the factory farming. We agree with them. We agree it's bad practices to raise animals on feedlots. I look at what they do to chickens and it just makes me cry. I have 25 backyard chickens that I allow to roam free in that big backyard of mine. And I could not imagine all the conditions that they put these chickens in factory farms, and the fact that they keep them in like this big barn they never see sunlight. No wonder the yolks are so pasty white yellow. They're not getting any nutrition, and I would much rather have the nutrition of an egg from chickens like mine than I ever would of one that came from a factory farm. So I agree with your point, But I don't think that's reason enough to give up meat. Eat the best meat that your budget allows, says Imperfectly Keto. Exactly. I'd rather shop Goodwill and then buy expensive food. That's a good point. We prioritize what matters in our life. And people that say, well, I can't afford to eat grass-fed, panda massage meat. Okay, great. That's an ode to Dr. Berry, by the way. Dr. Ken Berry always says grass-fed, panda massage meat. But you do the best you can, and if you need to cut corners in other areas of your budget so that you can get the good stuff, it's not that much more expensive. And because you're no longer buying crap, which you used to buy with your food budget, you actually have more dollars available to you to spend on good quality food. I've seen many vegan videos, and they all talk about factory farming. No one knows about family farming, and they protest family farms, the grass-fed animals. That they do, Alberto, and that's the sad state of reality. Kara says, it kills me when vegetarian-fed hens is promoted like it's a good thing. I see what my chickens eat, and they are not vegetarian. No, if I throw a chicken to my chickens, they will devour that rotisserie chicken. I give them mealworms all the time. They eat grubs and bugs and worms out of the ground. They're scavengers. Those chickens, they love to eat everything. But in everything that they eat, it shows up in that beautiful egg yolk. So, yeah, not vegetarian fed. I don't know why they thought that was a good marketing ploy. All right, guys. So, bottom line in this Jimmy Rants, let's not think vegans hold a monopoly on good health markers. I think you can get good health markers from a lot of nutritional modalities, including a low-carb ketogenic diet. And I think moving forward, if we're going to have this discussion, we need to look at what are the relevant health markers. So again, go listen to Keto Talk tomorrow on Thursday, ketotalk.com. Go listen to that podcast because we're going to go over a whole bunch of health markers. But I would love to coalesce around certain health markers that even vegans think are good ones to track, that even paleo people think are good ones to track, that all low carb and ketogenic people would think are good ones to track. Is it fasting insulin? Is it blood sugar? Is it hsCRP? Is it triglycerides? I'd love to have that conversation because I think moving forward, anytime we have these notions that biomarkers is what we want to look at, then we need to agree ahead of time on what are those biomarkers that matter the most. I truly believe if one can afford an iPhone, says Carol, travel across the country by an airplane, then you should be able to buy grass-fed meat. Yeah, you really should. And if you own, or if you have a roof over your head and you own a car, you are already in the top 1% of income earners in the entire world. A lot of Americans, they don't think that through and realize how rich they have it and how good they have it compared to most of the rest of the world. All right, guys, that's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, you can engage live in the content right here. We start on Instagram. I tried on Facebook. It kicked me off. Again, if my Facebook people are watching this, sorry, I lost you there. But thanks for being here, Instagram Live. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. So after 24 hours, though, you have to go over to YouTube. That's where we put all the past episodes of this show. We're quickly approaching, you guys, 300 episodes, almost there. Hard to imagine getting there so quick, but we're there. So watch it on YouTube. Go type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, the best of the best moments of this year's show are in podcast form over on Apple Podcast and Stitcher. All of these links, you guys, are at jimmyrants.com. Kara says, meat is always on sale. We raise beef, but I can find quality other proteins at the grocery store. And Kara, even places like Costco have grass-fed meat now. They're getting on the bandwagon. They're starting to understand what we as healthier consumers want. And to me, that's nothing but an upside. And we just need to keep holding their feet to the fire, keep voting with our dollars, keep going to buy these things when they become available in stores, so they know there's a demand for it and they'll keep carrying it. All right, guys, we're out of here. Until next time, we'll see you then.